I've painted the brackets yesterday and they've had a day to cure off. These two pieces will be hidden underneath the seat, so I know this one's very gnarly, but that should not be an issue. These two brackets are exposed and this one will be underneath the seat. And this was the really rusted steel plate, which I've now painted silver, and that will just get re-riveted back underneath. So yeah, not the best bit of restoration on the bike, but it's what I got. So yep, there's a hole that seems to have been drilled or punched through here, which I'm going to fill with some epoxy putty. And the other thing I was going to do was to get my Dremel tool and have a look at this melted mass here and see if we can't tidy that up a bit. And then after that, if we've got time, we'll glue the brackets, the metal brackets, into this position here. Okay, so that's the hole cleaned up using the Dremel tool, and I'm going to fill that space with epoxy putty, which I'll get around to in a little while. The next bit to move on to is this melted blob here. I have ground off the elephant's foot, the melted blob that was on there, and got it back to a nice solid flat surface. The next job is to go around and try and extract as many of the old rusty staples as is possible. I washed the whole seat and cleaned it up as best as I could, just to make it generally more presentable and to get rid of all the spider webs and mud and all the rest of it. I've also used methylated spirits to clean the hole that we're going to fix with the Milliput so that it's squeaky clean. This is the Milliput I'm going to use, which is a 2-pack epoxy based putty. Comes with 2 sticks. I've not used this before. But you take a small amount of each, mould it together, and then use it to fill the repair area. Right, I've been kneading the Milliput for a good 3 or 4 minutes now. It's not quite like Play-Doh, it's a little less elastic than that. And it's prone to cracking if you bend it, so if I bend it you can see how it quite easily fractures, so it's difficult to get it to mould into like a smooth, even, non-cracked finish. As I say, I've never used this before, it's just a product I've been aware of, so this is my first opportunity to give it a go. So I'm going to take a small amount of this and I'm going to see if we can fill this hole and get it as flush as possible to the inside, to the outside, because the inside is not quite so important. But this is where one of the metal bars goes that supports the seat. So I'm going to leave it at that. It's about as flush as I can get it. The colour's not too bad because it sort of matches the rest of the plastic. On the inside there's a big blob, and I've tried to get that fairly flush as well so that the foam will mould around it and there won't be a hard lump under the seat. I shouldn't feel that. So I'm going to wait for that to dry, and then that can be sanded a little flusher, but it's as close as I can get it by hand. I'm also just going to smidge a bit in here, not that I think it needs it, but it might help strengthen up an area that has a few like minor cracks in it, which I don't think goes all the way through, but just in case I can seal it with this, as we've already got some mixed up. It's now time to secure these in place with silicone sealant. I don't want them dropping off into the foam and getting lost after the seat's been recovered, and the easiest way to recover it is whilst the bracket's not actually in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a small amount of black silicone sealant around these edges and clamp it into place overnight, let it set, and then hopefully they'll be secured, ready for the covering to take place. Okay, it's the next evening. It's time to see if silicone has taken and whether it's going to hold those brackets in place with any surety. Okay, yeah, that seems quite firmly glued on there. I'm not going to push my luck with it. Okay, they're both glued in there. They're not going anywhere. Good. New tool. It's experiment time. I've got to reaffix this heat shield to the seat base. The original rivets were a lot more substantial, more akin to the ones that affix this on here, but it is a lightweight heat shield, so it's not supporting a lot of weight. The biggest pot rivets that came in my new pot riveter are this big, not massive, and the standard sort of size washers that came off it before were this big. And whilst they fit, they are a little bit loose, and the holes that are in the seat are also a bit loose as well. So what I've had to do is raid my model aeroplane stash and find washers that are a bit more suitable. These are sort of standard size 6mm washers, and these are model aeroplane washers, and they do fit quite nicely onto the end of the pot rivet, and that should spread the load and hopefully give us a better chance of securing that heat shield. Come on. Did that work? It may have worked. Okay, the rivet is in. It has popped at this side and it is secured at the other side, and it is on by the narrowest of margins. It was just long enough to go through. Excellent. It seems to have worked second time round. And the plate is tight enough that it's not going to vibrate. Excellent. So the plate's back in. I'm glad I didn't take this off, because I think I'd have struggled to get that on securely enough. It's thicker metal, so the rivets wouldn't have been long enough. Excellent. I'm pleased with that. Okay, that's painted black now on both sides. I'm going to leave that to cure overnight, and hopefully by tomorrow that'll be dry. The plate, the heat shield's riveted on. The brackets are securely adhered on there using silicone, and I've sanded down the epoxy filler that is on the damaged parts of the seats. So all I can do now is leave that, and I think the next job is to get on with the seat foam